Week 14 of the National Football League regular season now in the books after a wild game on a Monday in Dallas. Week 15 on the horizon. Just 4 weeks remain in our National Football League regular season. If you are in the playoff chase, if you are even remotely featured in the Hunt graphics, each and every week, each and every game will have some direct implications on a divisional race or that playoff chase as well. Joe, that is certainly how Week 15 starts. NFC West rivalry in California. This one up north in Santa Clara as the 49ers on a short week get ready to welcome the LA Rams. The Niners booked as less than a field goal favorite now, just a 2.5-point spread. Total stands at 48.5. Joe, the importance of this game cannot be undersold, because if either one of these two clubs is more than likely to see the postseason, it is winning games like this within the division to win the division. The Rams are 7-6. They're a full game behind Seattle. The Niners are 6-7. They are also behind Seattle. But the thing that is harming the 49ers more than just the overall record, Joe, sub 500, it's their NFC West record at 1-3. Again, the importance of Thursday night to kick off Week 15, it is a big one. What do you like in terms of the numbers?
Well, and it looks like both offenses have finally figured some things out. That was a big effort by the Rams against a very good Buffalo defense, and they were able to put up more than 40 points there. We saw, of course, San Francisco finally start getting the ball. That was the Brock Purdy. That was good Brock Purdy, what we saw there, despite the fact that they have no running game of dimension. But they still didn't have Bosa. They're still missing guys on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, call me crazy. How is this game not going over? They scored 51 in the first meeting. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the last 15 games between these teams have averaged 50 points here, Ben. It feels like this is going to be two teams very familiar with one another. Issues on defense for both teams. Offenses seem to finally be figuring it out. Yeah, this feels like a wild shootout to me.
So it is a Thursday night game on a short week with two teams that have battled injuries all year long. The Rams just played one of the wildest games in the history of the National Football League that featured the most offense we have ever seen this season, or in a game the first time in NFL history. Both teams scored 40-plus points and did not turn the football over. What are the lasting effects of eking out a win over Buffalo in a highly dramatic game on a short week with a road trip? No, they're not going cross-country or even halfway up across the country. They're just going up to Northern California. But still, you wonder, Matthew Stafford is a 36-year-old veteran quarterback. A couple of concerns there for L.A. For San Francisco, Joe, I do wonder how injured they will look come Thursday. Isaac Guerrero left the game late in the second half, had to be escorted to the locker room, dealing with a lower leg injury. They had just placed Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason on IR entering Week 14, and they got a little bit healthier on the defensive side of the football, and a couple of guys are getting back to practice, but are they game ready? Talanoa Hufanga, their outstanding safety. You look at Drake Greenlaw trying to return from the Achilles injury that sidelined him at the end of last year's postseason, and Nick Bosa, who really did not practice last week but is trending in a positive direction, where they held out last week against the Bears to be ready for this critical divisional duel on Thursday. So many questions, Joe. Here's what I would say. If this game even played in Santa Clara, was a full week on a Sunday, and even the odds makers made the 49ers a favorite, as they have often been this season and since the start of last year, I'd probably pick the Rams outright as an underdog. The short week component, though, really scares me for LA, and scares me because a couple of weeks ago, I bet the Rams at plus 290 to win the NFC West. It is now plus 160. it's a critical game for the Rams to lose if they are going to do so, just because it's on a short week.
Yeah, but give Stafford and a healthy core of wide receivers there that are basically, I mean, listen, Buffalo couldn't cover it. Buffalo couldn't stop them. We figured the Rams were going to have problems stopping the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, and they certainly did, but they got just enough stops in order to be able to win that game. Very experienced Stafford in this spot. Two teams and two coaches that know each other very well. I think forget about it. To me, it's just let's go out there. We need to score 30 points to win this game. Yeah. And I think the first team that does it is going to win because both teams have major issues defensively and in the secondary, which I think is where this game will be won.
You almost wonder, Joe, full week Sunday afternoon in Santa Clara. Is this total 50.5? Probably, right? You would think it would be on the upswing just a little bit. Yep. By the way, you mentioned the familiar foe nature of this game. Kyle Shanahan, his old buddy Sean McVay. Shanahan still owns a 10-6 direct head-to-head matchup record against McVay, but the Rams have won the last two, both in the regular season, including earlier this year. The Rams won outright as a dog. They are 3-4, both straight up and ATS as an underdog this year. When they cover and keep a game close as an underdog, they win outright, as they did last week against Buffalo. The 49ers, 6 wins this year. 5 of the 6 they have covered as the favored side in all 5 covers. The over for the 49ers as well in the game. Week 15 is awesome. Bye weeks are done around the National Football League. We've got full slates each and every week to end out the final 4 weeks of this regular season. And so, Joe, on Sunday, the matchup in the Commonwealth, the Keystone State in Philadelphia, between the Eagles and the Steelers. Not divisional foes or even conference opponents, but two teams that each have at least 10 wins, the 10-3 Steelers, the 11-2 Eagles, that sit atop their divisions right now. You see the spread in favor of Philadelphia on Sunday, actually working even more in favor of the Birds. 5.5-point spread in favor of Philly at home. What do you make of it?
Well, the Steelers likely without Pickens again because of the hamstring, which was interesting because we didn't learn that until very late, Ben, in the game before kickoff, and we saw that total crater, although we were very close to still getting the over in that game and plenty of opportunities. I mean, they still put up 27 points, Ben, without their number one wide receiver here. They're going to be able to move the ball on the Eagles. It feels like giving Tomlin 5.5 points in this spot, never a good idea against a better team. This has always been a profitable spot to back Pittsburgh getting points, not against a sub-500 team, but against a divisional leading team. Yes, better competition, better effort. I expect Pittsburgh to hang around this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Joe. When you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is their spot. They are 5-0 outright as an underdog this season. Even if they come up short and Philly wins its 10th consecutive game, I would keep them in that number. Total is intriguing to me. 42 and a hook. Two of the top 5 scoring defenses in the NFL. Philly tied for second, 18 points per game allowed. The Steelers, just about 19 points per game given up. We'll talk more about that in the trends of playing upper tier competition and how that has looked from the scoring output for both on the other side of the break as we hear on the early line. Look at the early lines for Week 15 next. What a week it is going to be, Week 15 around the National Football League. It starts on Thursday with a divisional duel. It continues into Sunday with a game of the year, potential number 5 in just a moment. But, Joe, to finish out our conversation on the in-state showdown in the Commonwealth between the Eagles and the Steelers in Philadelphia, total of 42.5 is intriguing. Again, two of the top 5 scoring defenses in the National Football League, the Eagles and the Steelers, both allowing less than 20 points per game. Philly in this 9-game win streak where the defense has really come along, under in 6 of 9, under in 4 of their previous 5. Since Russell Wilson became the starter for Pittsburgh, only 2 games for the Steelers against teams that are 500 or better. The Commanders and the Ravens. Against Washington, a shootout, 55 combined points. But in a matchup against the Ravens, where we expected points, game stayed well under, 18-16. The Steelers won outright as an underdog. 5 games for Pittsburgh as a dog this year, outright victories in all 5, under in 2 of the 5 only, over more times than not.
Listen, I mean, this has been a great opportunity year after year. But the thing you worry about the Steelers, especially on the road, is playing down to competition. Well, they haven't done that this year. And ever since Russ has taken over, and you mentioned it, Ben, he's not turning the ball over. They're scoring way more points than we're used to. And now they're taking on a team that's kind of the mirror image of them in the NFC, right? They want to run the ball. They want to control clock. And they want your defense out on the field as much as possible so they can win the game in the second half. I don't know that this is a great matchup for the Eagles to do that. I'm more than happy at 11-5 since 2022 as a road dog. Yeah, the Steelers will have my money this weekend. And don't be shocked, by the way. They're saying Pickens might be out, but I would not be shocked if Pickens is ruled in before kickoff.
The Steelers, the 4th best rushing defense in the NFL. The Eagles, the 8th best. Saquon Barkley will continue his chase of history, trying to catch Eric Dickerson for the single-season rushing record in the NFL. Saquon more than 1,620 yards right now. Dickerson, 2,105 back in 1984. He is certainly on pace, but the Steelers also know that. 4th best rushing defense, only allowing 91.5 yards per game on the ground. We talked about it throughout the opening hour. Brandon Graham detailing a little bit of a strife between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Props not out yet, of course, as you would expect on a Tuesday morning. I would keep an eye on those A.J. Brown numbers. Receptions, receiving yards, touchdown, whatever it might be. Joe, what a game we will have on Sunday afternoon as well. The Steelers and the Eagles in that 425 window, as is a game of the year 5 potential. Because we don't have any buys anymore, we've got so many games on Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Eastern in the Motor City. It's the Lions and the Bills. Just 1.5 points now in favor of Detroit. You can see the short distinctions in terms of the money line price. Minus 126 for the Lions, plus 108 other side for Buffalo. And stare at that total, 54.5. The Lions are still the best scoring offense in the NFL. Buffalo just behind. The Bills have scored at least 30 points now in 7 consecutive games. And Joe, Detroit's defense is ailing. Not because they're playing bad football, just because of the litany of injuries the Lions have suffered this year. And the Packers took advantage to the tune of 31 points, 24 of them in the second half on Thursday night against Detroit. Game of the year 5. Buffalo and Detroit from Ford Field in the Motor City. What do you like early on?
Yeah, and listen, I think that if Buffalo had won against the Rams, I might look at this game a little bit differently. But I do think Buffalo losing the way they did to the Rams, and while, yes, that was a rough loss for Detroit as well, losing to Green Bay there by 3. You mentioned it, Ben. And we've been talking about it. The injuries on that defensive side of the ball are just mounting. I mean, we're talking a bunch of backups here, Ben. They have been fortunate enough in a few games to not get caught by it. But Green Bay lighting them up and Josh Allen lighting them up are 2 different things. No elements, indoors, fast track. My goodness here. I think Buffalo bounces back, wins this game. And I think some team totals are in play for this one as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Joe. To me, it feels like a Bills bounce back spot as well. A couple of spots here, though, Joe, where the home team is favored, trying to hold on to a top spot in a division. Philly not tested nearly as much in the NFC East as the Lions are in the NFC North. Only a game in front of Minnesota. They did beat the Vikings in their only matchup so far this year, with Week 18 and a regular season finale looming on the horizon. But the Lions battling for that number one seed in the NFC, direct correlation to Philadelphia. Buffalo trying to get back in the AFC number one seed race. Them losing to LA on Sunday, and the Chiefs yet again finding a way to win. 2-game lead for KC, and yet Buffalo has the head-to-head tiebreaker as well. Joe, here we are, entering Week 15. We're calling it a game of the year 5. If I had to bet right now, Super Bowl 59 exact matchup, this would get my money. What say you?
Yeah, I would not bet against this, Ben, because I do think both teams, I got to see the Lions get a little healthier on that defensive side of the ball. Right. But, the Bills certainly able to go offensively toe-to-toe with this team. Not many people have been able to do that with the Lions. The Bills are certainly capable of doing it. I like the Bills' defense more than I like Green Bay's defense, and Green Bay was able to get it done.
Listen, the Bills could not get a stop, but the Rams could not do anything against Josh Allen. And the Lions are just dealing with so many injuries. It is unfortunate.